So you may have heard, I know we reported on this this morning, there is a new traffic survey. Let's give it its proper name. It is called the Inrix Global Traffic Scorecard for 2023. We're going to talk about it in general, but I will point out that, of course, for us here in Montreal, no. I guess it's fair to say we've achieved the rather unenviable distinction as one of the top 50 worst cities in the world for traffic congestion, but at least we're better than Toronto. Let's go to the phone. Bob Pishue is on the line. He is the author of this 2023 Inrix study. Mr. Pishue, thanks for being here this afternoon. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Let me there's an awful lot in here. So first of all, let me start by saying you have done this survey across 7 continents, 37 countries, and more than 900 cities. What do you base this on? How do you measure these?
Yeah, so Inrix, who puts out this report and who's my employer, we've been doing this report for 18 years. And we are a traffic data and analytics company, so we get a ton of data from a lot of different sources. And from that, we provide analytics. And from that, vast big data database, we can take a look at things that are going on the road, from travel times to incidents to signal timing, all sorts of things. So that gives us a big picture of what's going on.
So I will say, you top of your list, this probably won't come as a big surprise, is New York City. They have the longest delays in traffic. It's 101 hours there, which seems kind of crazy, but Montreal is still at 57 hours. And I said, we rank, I think, in 30th place on the list. Out of 900 cities, it seems to me that's pretty terrible.
Yeah, it's pretty surprising when you take a look at it. But on the other hand, I mean, Montreal is a relatively big urban area. A lot of economic activity and productivity is going on in it, and so kind of like New York, it's a major center for in Canada, along with Toronto and Vancouver. So it's on the list, but there's always room to improve.
Boy, is there ever. Toronto, by the way, ranked 17th on the list. We're at 30th. And then Vancouver's all the way down at 56, which kind of surprised me. I thought they'd be a bit closer to us. I would ask as well, when you measure this across, obviously, so many cities, you have more than 900, do you take population into account? Like, how do you determine this? If we were a city of, say, 3 million or 4 million people, how do we rank with other cities of the same size?
Right. So that 30th rank that you provided does take population into account a little bit. But for those 57 hours, those are per driver. So that's unique to each area. So obviously some drivers in Montreal experience more, some less. If you take, transit, you may avoid some of those hours lost. But so for the global ranking, 30th, population's taken into account a little bit. But that 57 hours is the driver paying in Montreal.
So you said
regardless of population.
Yeah, you say you've been doing this for 18 years. I wonder, when you look back year to year to year, I'm guessing the pandemic obviously changed habits where people were on different, different schedules and on roads at different times. Is that the case?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, just like any other area, the pandemic really changed things historically, from a big drop in trips to downtown. We've seen that downtown areas, some are slow to recover, some are, quicker to recover. The travel patterns are less hub and spoke, right? Less going to that central core, and instead kind of trip patterns are spread out all over the place. And also, the time people are traveling is different. Instead of a really strong morning rush hour and a really strong evening rush hour, we're seeing a lot of travel go through the middle of the day, too. That's building up throughout the day. So COVID has really changed transportation, at least over the last 5 years. We'll see how much goes forward.
If you went back even farther, I mean, do we see this list get worse and worse every year, COVID or no COVID?
Not necessarily. Throughout the Great Recession, we saw a little bit of a downswing in traffic congestion. And that, at the time, that was historical. In the, 70 years since they've tracked vehicle miles traveled, at least in the United States, it's always been up. congestion's almost always going up.
Yeah.
But actually, that was the first downtick we saw was during the Great Recession. A little bit of a downtick in the 80s as far as those recessions, but COVID's is taking those recessions and putting them on steroids for at least the first 6 months through the pandemic, from March to about September.
I want to point out one other figure, and this is the thing I'm sure doesn't get talked about a lot. You also measure here how much this gridlock costs economies. Can you go through those numbers, because they seem mind-boggling? Yeah.
So, and I just ran the numbers for Montreal before this. If it's calculated the same way we would for America, drivers in America, it would cost the typical driver in Montreal about $1,000 worth of lost time, productivity, being with family, friends, recreation, etc. So it's a hefty price tag. In the U.S. combined, it costs more than $70 billion in 2023 in lost time and productivity. So it's sizable.
So I'm guessing cities will look at this. Obviously, urban planners will look at this. I mean, what comes from this that you can say, you know what, we can do a better job of doing something to make these numbers better? Anything?
Yeah, there are a lot of things, right? So I think one thing that is sort of the takeaway from this is that, our transportation planning processes are really long, decades in the making, right? And so it's not very adaptable to things changing on the ground quickly. And I think that this continues to bring that into focus. We just need to be a little bit more agile and flexible when it comes to transportation to hopefully, accommodate this. Like rail lines, for example, they really aren't that flexible. They go, they stop at some stations, but they're fixed. But trying to improve the flexibility and resiliency of our transportation system, I think, will be a top of mind.
If I could ask you before we run out of time, you look at a study like this, are there some areas of the world or some cities that were in the study that really surprised you or were never on the list before that have moved up or moved down an awful lot?
Well, one thing that continues to surprise me is New York City, obviously, actually rebounded, took a little long to recover after COVID, but downtown New York still stayed pretty strong. Another city that's popped out is Miami. With all the population growth and businesses relocating, congestion keeps building in that metro area. Others aren't as surprising, right? With like Mexico City coming in second, London, Paris, Istanbul. These are all major, dense urban cores. And again, those are almost always at the top of the list, but those are typically the most congested.
So my last question would be, if you were going to move to some place where traffic congestion would be the least of your worries, who does it best?
I would go to Calgary.
Oh.
No, I'm from the United States. I like where I'm at. I'm in Boise, Idaho, and there isn't much traffic congestion here, but there are spots in Canada that don't have to deal with, the city traffic. So it might be a place a little bit more out in the suburban or rural areas.
Calgary, huh? Okay. I thought I saw on the list that Edmonton did pretty well as well in Canada.
Yeah, Edmonton did really well. Really the top two, are Montreal and Toronto. Yeah. If Montreal were in the U.S., it would rank top 10 or, pretty close to there. Wow. So it still has a pretty significant amount of congestion going on.
All right. Mr. Pishue, I want to thank you. Appreciate your time. This is really interesting. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks a lot.
You
Bye-bye.
Bet. So, just by the way, to kind of recap here, if you want to go through the list, as he said, New York City, number 1, followed by Mexico City, London, Paris, Chicago, Istanbul, Los Angeles, Boston, Cape Town, South Africa, and Jakarta, Indonesia. Those are the top 10 worst cities in the world for traffic congestion. But nice to know that Montreal is holding up its end.